A lot has been made of Drew Brees' arm strength in the New Orleans Saints, but they're sitting at 3-2 and are right in the thick of things in the NFC South. They're scoring 30.6 points per game, and while there is a lot of short game and possession passing in the Saints offense, they also attack the intermediate middle of the field with deep digs and crossers in the Dagger and Y-Cross concepts. These two schemes are very similar to each other and also work to open up space underneath for Kamara. Nothing is really new under the sun for NFL teams and passing schemes. Almost every team uses some variation of the big concepts like drive, shallow cross, stick, mesh, or dagger. But the inventive coaches find ways to tweak them, make them look different, disguise them so defenses can't key on them, and even combine multiple concepts into one play. And that's what Sean Payton does a good job of. First, let's understand the dagger concept. Dagger uses a clear out with a deep dig behind it and typically a shallow drag or someone in the flats underneath to give it a high-low read on the defense. Dagger can be incredibly effective against any coverage, really. Its one downfall, though, is that the primary read and goal of the play, the deep dig, takes a long time to develop, so it puts a big burden on the offensive line. With that deep dig to attack the middle of the field, you'll often see it called in second or third and long situations where you're more likely to see two high safeties and softer coverage. That's exactly what we have here with a 3rd and 15 for the Saints. The Packers are in a match cover 4. What that means is that for all intents and purposes, the deep routes are covered in man coverage. Match coverage uses a lot of man-on-demand or mod coverage. If the receiver lined up on the corner goes vertical, the coverage turns into man. If that receiver goes inside within 5 yards, the corner would pass that route off to the linebacker. This also applies to the nickel corners here lined up over the number 2 receivers. If their receiver goes vertical, they carry. If they go inside and under 5 yards, they pass it off. You can see just that at the top of the screen as the tight end Jared Cook immediately goes inside and the corner passes him off to the linebacker while pointing and communicating an end call. The safeties, meanwhile, are giving support over the top and helping to bracket routes inside and out. You can see that the safety to the bottom of the screen quickly bails to the outside to bracket the receiver to the outside while the nickel carries him from the inside. Kevin King on the other side of the field is running a lock call, so no matter what, he's man on that receiver. This frees up Adrian Amos to peek over and lean to the field side and help down the middle. This is exactly what the dagger concept can exploit. Remember, we have a clear out with a seam or a skinny post from the play side slot receiver. This receiver needs to get inside of the safety to his side so he pulls him in coverage. The more people he can take with him on this route, the better. On the outside, we know that based on match cover 4 rules, the corner is going to be man on demand on that dig route because it's deeper than 5 yards. So we're clearing the nickel corner and play side safety and now have a one-on-one with the corner on the outside. Meanwhile, from the backside of the play, we have that shallow drag coming across the field. We talked about that being passed off to the linebacker, and that's exactly what happens. It keeps the linebacker underneath to open the window for the deep dig behind it. In the secondary, it all works perfectly. The issue is the protection starts to break down and Brees can't hang in the pocket long enough to hit that dig as it's breaking open. What the route concept has done, though, is left Kamara one-on-one in the open field against that dime corner that passed off the shallow drag. And that's a matchup that the Saints love every day of the week. It might be a dump off and a check down off of a deep play call, but it does pick up 15 yards on 3rd and long, and it moves the chains because it stressed the defense vertically and opened up space underneath. Dagger is still really effective against a single high safety look as well. The purpose of the clear out is exactly the same. His job is to hold that safety with his seam and pull the corner with him to clear space underneath for the deep dig. The Raiders are bringing extra pressure here, so the middle of the field is really open. But that means that the running back has to stay in to help with the blitz, so there's no outlet for Brees now. He's going to have to stand in the pocket until the dig develops or until the shallow drag pops open. What's great about these tight splits when running dagger is that the deep dig gets inside leverage on that cover 3 corner, which makes life a lot easier on both the quarterback and the receiver. The slot corner carries the seam up to the safety, the dig has leverage on the corner outside, and Brees can throw with anticipation here because there's no linebacker to get in the passing lane and he can see the corner's back is turned in the middle of the field. The safety tries to rotate down onto the dig, but it's too late and a nice chunk gain for the Saints. The Saints will run dagger a couple times a game to attack the middle of the field. The concept stays the same and is effective against whatever coverage they might see. Brees is often a little quick to come off of that deep dig, but even if he doesn't throw it, it still gets the ball to their playmakers in space underneath. So that was the dagger concept. What Sean Payton has started to combine it with, though, is the Y-Cross concept. Let's dig into that a little bit, and then we'll see how he meshes the Dagger and Y-Cross concepts into one to add wrinkles to his playbook and give Brees a lot of options on the play. The Y-Cross is run by a lot of teams off of play action with tight ends, but you can run it out of any personnel grouping and off of a pure drop back as well. Against the Lions, the Saints run it out of 11 personnel with a rocket motion to the field. The tight end, or the Y, has the crossing route. He's working for an inside release and then across the field at an angle at which he would run out of bounds at 18 to 22 yards. Against zone, he would settle in the first hole after the Mike linebacker, and in man, he would continue to run across the field. Behind the Y-Cross, you have a deep dig route similar to what we saw on Dagger. There really are a ton of areas that are possible to settle in for both the Y-Cross and that deep dig route, so it can be hard to recognize since it can be run 5 different times and the receivers are stopping in 5 different areas based on how the coverage aligns and where those zones on the field are. The concept on Y-Cross is very similar to that of Dagger though. The Y-Cross pulls defenders and vacates space for the dig coming in behind it. The main difference here is that the outside receiver is running a vertical route and there's no shallow drag coming underneath. The first read is always checking for that vertical from the X receiver away from the Y-Cross. The quarterback then works to the Y-Cross and then the deep dig behind that. Now on a pure drawback, you have the same concept. The Y-Cross, which can sometimes be checked into a hard dig if the receiver is feeling man coverage, and then you have the dig behind it and the vertical from the X receiver. Brees could have again hit the dig, but checks it down to Kamara in the flats and ends up getting good yardage out of it. With all that flow to one side, the Saints like to leak Kamara into the flats into the backside of the play. Again, they're just trying to get their best player in space on a linebacker or a corner and let him go to work. Now that we understand what both Dagger and Y-Cross look like, we can look at what the Saints do out of trips to combine these two concepts into one play and stress the defense in multiple ways. It's an easy install into already established plays in the offense and allows versatility for attacking coverages and creating a big play. The Chargers are in a unique defense here where they're playing man coverage underneath with one true safety and then 2 deep seam defenders that are going to sit at the sticks and help bracket players from the outside on this 3rd and 14 play from the Saints. The Saints call up their Dagger Y-Cross combination out of trips. The number 3 receiver runs the Y-Cross, the number 2 receiver runs that same clear out that we saw in Dagger, and the number 1 receiver outside runs the deep dig behind it. On the single receiver side, you have the shallow drag that you normally see in Dagger as well. So really it's just like running a Y-Cross with the additional receiver on the side of the Dagger. You have Dagger from the outside guys, and the dig plays into that Y-Cross concept, so you've managed to combine both of those plays into one. What this does is attack the deep safety with 2 verticals. If he runs to the Y-Cross, he's leaving his corner out to dry down the seam. And if he stays with the seam like he does, he puts the linebacker in trail position in an impossible spot. That seam defender to the boundary at the top of the screen is supposed to sit and guard the sticks. But if there's nobody threatening him there, he has to get deep and underneath the Y-Cross. That player is number 44 Kaiser White, who plays the linebacker. Clearly not a guy that's used to protecting a deep zone of the field. Brees knows that and attacks that matchup. If the Y-Cross wasn't there though, the dig portion of the concept is about to break open in the middle of the field, and the shallow drag has pulled out any underneath defenders. The seam from the Dagger concept held the safety to allow the Y-Cross to get open, and also held the sticks defender, which allowed the dig to come open on a secondary read. The Saints have run this combination concept a couple times this year. This time against the Lions, the seam is the one that's open. Brees ends up checking it down to the shallow drag to Taysom Hill, but let's take a look at the bind it puts the defense in. The Y-Cross gets the safety's hips turned inside, and the dig helps bring down the outside corner. That corner on the top of the screen jumps on the dig, and with the safety's hips turned the wrong way, the seam is now open and there's a ton of space for Brees to throw to. The Y-Cross has taken 3 defenders, the dig has taken 2, and that leaves one-on-one matchups for the rest of the routes. The seam, shallow drag, and the leak from Kamara. Brees comes down from the shallow drag, who settles in the middle of the field, but the shot to the seam was there and available for a big play. The Saints are right in the thick of things and have managed to survive a stretch without their best weapon in Michael Thomas. Things are only going to improve for that offense upon his return. Sean Payton does a good job of combining concepts and attacking defenses in multiple ways. It creates easy outlets for Drew Brees, and even when things don't work the way they're intended, they end up getting Kamara into the flats. So let's not say Drew Brees is washed and the Saints are done. They're just fine. With the wrinkles that Sean Payton assuredly has in store, the sky is the limit for the Saints, and they can absolutely still compete for a Super Bowl. Hey guys, make sure to check out the Patreon for weekly game picks, some extra bonus content and video breakdowns every week. There's also early releases for these full breakdowns. You can donate just $1 a month, and that gives you access to all of it. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and until next time, I'm Casey Sully, and I'll see you on the next film breakdown.